Hey, freaks. It's Vegan Freak Radio number 48. Monday, September 25th, 2006.
Hello, Vegan Freakies. It's Jenna.
I'm Bob.
And we're back once again.
We are.
For a meatless hour of radio. Or so.
A meatless hour? Not just meatless, but dairy-free, egg-free.
Yes.
Animal product-free, as much as we can be.
Yes, indeed.
Animal product-free. We're working on it. Well, actually, no animals are ever harmed in the production of Vegan Freak Radio.
Indeed. That is very true.
That's right. Or no animals are ever harmed here at Vegan Freak headquarters.
That's true, unless our cat is doing the harming.
Well, the cat's anyway.
He chases things like bugs.
Yeah, he's into that kind of stuff. He's a cat.
He's
That's
a cat.
What cats are into.
Indeed.
All right, we've got an exciting show for you today. We've got all kinds of things. An interview with Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, who is from Compassionate Cooks.
Huh?
That's coming in the second half of the show. But prior to that, we're going to talk about organic dairy for a moment. We've got a bunch of voicemails for you. We got a couple emails. We got a song. That's about all. Mm-hmm. As if that's not enough.
I know. A little bit talking about E. coli. All that kind of fun stuff.
Indeed. So that's what's going on here in Vegan Freakland.
We first need to congratulate Ryan over at VegBlog.
That's right.
Ryan and his wife, again, had a baby on September 16th. 2006, of course. Barely on September 16th at 11:54 p.m.
There you go.
And her name is Racine. I hope I'm saying that right. Lynn McMichael.
Ryan sent us emails, but he has not told us how to pronounce it. So
yes.
If it's wrong,
tough.
No,
but congratulations. And
yeah.
It's cool you have a healthy baby girl.
New happy family.
Yeah.
So cool stuff, man. Congrats.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats. If it were me, I would be like this. You can barely hear that.
Yeah.
I
You
fucked up.
turn that up.
I'd be like this. I couldn't imagine me with kids. But Ryan is way more responsible than I am. And therefore make a wonderful father.
I'm sure he will.
So, absolutely he will. And I don't know. I'm just a fucking mess. I can barely keep myself together. Forget about another human being.
But we have our furry family, too.
We do indeed. Mm-hmm. So, anyway,
I believe we're going to start with the news today.
The news. Okay, in the New York Times on the 16th, that seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it?
It was last Saturday.
Yeah, that's a while ago. There was an article called A Milk War Over More Than Price, and this article deals with the ways in which Walmart is moving into the organic sphere, which I tried to convince people at our co-op of this, but some of them didn't want to hear it. Anyway, the point is they're talking about how Walmart is producing its own brand of extra cheap organic milk, and that some people are worried that it's kind of diluting the organic brand. So I just wanted to kind of mention that, everybody thinks organic is cool, and I've had people say to me, I drink organic milk, it's okay. And, I'm like, well, if Walmart's involved with it, it probably isn't okay. And in fact, they use a dairy called Aurora that is controversial. And it says in the article, the controversy turns on how closely Aurora adheres to the principles behind the organic food movement. Many organic farmers say grass feeding is essential for organic dairy production because it's part of a cow's natural behavior. Just like going to slaughter, that's part of a cow's natural behavior. Mm-hmm. I hate these organic food fucks.
Yep.
Well, I don't hate organic food. I just hate the people that organic food is as far as they go. That annoys. Right. I don't hate them. I should take it back. I'll get a nasty email. By the way, I like them. The nasty emails, not the organic food people. No, what I mean to say is that a lot of people, it's a very selfish thing to me. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I'm not going to consume pesticides, and they don't even think about the lives of the animals. So anyway, the point here is that I'm just fucking this up. ridiculously. I can't read. I can't read and talk at the same time.
Well, I mean, the point is that if just because it says organic does not mean it's not factory farmed.
True, and that's actually the point of the article is that some of the things that the producer for Walmart is doing in order to keep the prices down are things that are violating some of the ideas that people have about what organic dairy production should be. Mm-hmm. So Walmart's getting into it. It's a rapidly growing section of the food industry, and if Walmart's getting into it, you know that there's some bank there. So anyway, what they do is they have 4,000 cows. This Aurora operation, at one operation, is 40 miles north of downtown Denver, and the cows are put on grass only when not being milked or when they are nearing the end of lactation cycle. So for about 2 to 3 months a year, the cows are in fact hanging out. The rest of the time, they stay in dirt-lined outdoor pens where they eat from an ample trough filled with a mixture of hay, silage, and corn beans. So they're essentially feedlot cows that are producing organic milk, which is, I think, what some people would not expect. Mm-hmm. So
that's true. And it goes to this whole thing about marketing that we're always talking about, like with Whole Foods. You know, the reason that they want to market all this organic stuff is because it's you know, it draws people in. Organic, It must be great. You know, and so, I'll pay more for it. And it's just like, they don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, places like, Walmart, they certainly don't care.
No, I mean, it's just another niche for them. Mm-hmm. You know, Walmart does not care about sustainable business practices unless it's meant to sustain their bottom line.
Yep, that's about it.
So I think that, it's just another way in which the whole concern about food is being co-opted and stolen and redirected so that people can make a fucking buck. Mm-hmm. And it annoys me. Mm-hmm. I'm done now. Okay. I'm done tripping over my words and making a fool of myself.
You're not tripping over your words.
Sure I was. I blanked out. I had a moment of...
Did you have a brain fart?
I had a brain fart. I had a moment of on-air despair when I could not figure out what the fuck I was talking about.
I see.
And for anyone who ever does any radio, it's kind of disturbing. So I could go back and edit it, but I'm lazy, so I won't.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about articles related to E. coli, and we do have some audio we want to play first from a listener.
Hi, Vegan Freaks. This is Patrick in San Diego. I just listened to a story about watch out for bags of spinach. Apparently bags of fresh spinach right now, at least in California. Well, I heard on Marketplace, so, I mean, that's, like, the nation. So, I mean, I noticed that whenever something like whenever a vegetable product has some kind of contaminant, that it's like a nationwide story. Everybody watch out, vegetables are bad for you. Surely, I just don't think that's equal, man. I swear there's got to be more... It seems to me that when it's like a meat or an animal product, like, oh, these eggs got bacteria on them, you shouldn't eat them. That's just one of the reasons why you shouldn't eat them, assholes. But it seems to be more regional or local stories. But if it's a vegetable product where it's like, whoa, I don't know. Our society is just, I don't understand how people can just love. Never mind. I'm just frustrated at the ignorance and the stupidity of our society. Just like, love meat. Meat's good. Can't talk bad about it. It's like the Bush administration. It's like, no, can never talk bad about it. Only talk bad about the other side. Never mind. All right, thanks, guys. I'm just frustrated right now. Thanks. Bye.
Patrick, I share your frustration because the reason I share your frustration is when there are E. coli outbreaks in hamburgers, we never recall every single bit of hamburger in the United States. No, it's like, keep on eating the damn hamburgers. Cook them more. Eat more hamburger. God damn it. Hamburger's great. And yet, spinach is recalled over and over again and constantly. And I don't have any problem with that. I think it's good from a food safety perspective, right? But we need to think about how it is that spinach, which is not something that naturally has E. coli on it, is coming down with all this E. coli that can fucking kill you.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, and that's, I think, been a frustration of a lot of vegans, and I've seen on the forums and from talking to people, is that hardly in the news do you hear where the E. coli comes from. And, of course, E. coli only comes from animals. And the reason that it's in contaminating spinach is from factory farms. No.
I like that.
That's good. There was it's an op-ed, unfortunately. It's not an actual article, because, of course, they would never put this information in an actual article. An op-ed by someone named Nina Plank. who apparently wrote a book called Real Food, What to Eat and Why, and I have no idea what that book is about. But anyway, and this op-ed is interesting because it's sort of good, and at the same time, of course, does not go all the way in what we would think would be a good conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So let me read to you a little bit from it. It says, first, some basic facts about this usually harmless bacterium. E. coli is abundant in the digestive systems of healthy cattle and humans, and if your potato salad happened to be carrying the average E. coli, the acid in your gut is usually enough to kill it. But the villain in this outbreak, E. coli 0157H7, is far scarier, at least for humans. Your stomach juices are not strong enough to kill this acid-loving bacterium, which is why it is more likely than other members of the E. coli family to produce abdominal cramps, diarrhea, fever, and in rare cases, fatal kidney failure.
Yay!
Fun! Where does this particular virulent strain come from? It's not found in the intestinal tracts of cattle raised on their natural diet of grass, hay, and other fibrous forage. No, 0157 thrives in a new, that is, recent in the history of animal diets, biological niche, the unnaturally acidic stomachs of beef and dairy cattle fed on grain, the typical ration on most industrial farms.
Not vegan.
Indeed. It's the infected manure from these grain-fed cattle that contaminates the groundwater and spreads the bacteria to produce like spinach, produce like spinach growing on neighborhood farms. Okay, so up to there, I'm like, yeah. Hello, finally, someone's telling us where it's all coming from.
Hell yeah.
This is great, but of course, and then she goes on. She says, well, in 2003, the Journal of Dairy Science noted that up to 80% of dairy cattle carry 0157. Fortunately, food safety measures prevent contaminated fecal matter from getting into most of our food.
Most of it.
Most of the time.
Most of it. Mostly.
Happily, the journal also provided a remedy based on a simple experiment. When cows were switched from grain diet to hay for only 5 days, 0157 declined 1,000-fold. So, of course, her solution is it would graciously... Yes. Give them a forage diet. Don't feed them on feedlots. Which, of course, is great because we don't want factory farms, but then you're still factory farming them. They're just out on pasture for a little bit longer.
Right.
It's still massive productions. Yeah. So, of course, yes, she says...
And it's still exploitation of animals at the end of the day.
It is. It is. And, you know, another source of E. coli, isn't it, is because when they're killed, the contents of their stomach and their digestive system spreads all over the place.
Indeed.
And, you know, it's disgusting.
Well, that's why it gets into the meat.
Yeah.
Because the modern disassembly line, the animal disassembly line, moves so quickly that sometimes the gut is cut open and shit goes all over the meat.
Over the place.
So there's shit in your meat if you're eating meat. And if you're eating meat, you shouldn't be eating meat. Because you don't need to eat meat to do well. I mean, this is obvious. We always talk about this. This is so obvious.
Yeah. So, yeah, but this is kind of strange. I mean, she says the United States Department of Agriculture does recognize the threat from these huge lagoons of waste, and so pays 75% of the cost for a confinement cattle farmer to make manure pits watertight, either by lining them with concrete or building them above ground. But taxpayers are financing a policy that only treats the symptom, not the disease, and at great expense. There remains only one long-term remedy, and it's still the simplest one. Stop feeding grain to cattle.
The simplest one is to stop consuming cattle.
Stop consuming dairy.
Stop consuming animals.
And stop consuming beef. Actually, dairy is even worse than beef in this matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they're the more likely to be fed the grain. And a lot of beef-fed cattle are fed grasses, grass-fed, and then they go to feedlots before they're killed.
Yeah, they're fattened up.
They're fattened up on feedlots.
Well, that's because of our lovely Bureau of Land Management policies in the West. I don't know. I find the whole spinach thing... It's frustrating because the problem that is coming about is one that is endemic to our food system and to the way in which we are always forced to produce food. You know, it's like something that is just at the center of our production.
Yeah.
And these are the problems that happen when you have a system that is so interconnected and so big. And it's a shame that all those people have died from spinach. So,
only one died.
Only one?
Only one.
I thought more than one died. I thought 20 people died.
Oh, really? I don't think so. I think only one died, but hundreds of people have gotten sick, though.
No fooling.
But, yeah, and it's a shame because the spinach industry is the industry that's taken the hit for this.
Yeah.
and that they're losing, all kinds of money. And of course, the people who actually caused all of this will never feel anything.
That's true.
Which is really stupid. Because people need their leafy greens.
We do need our leafy greens, God.
They're good for you.
They
are. Not when they're contaminated with cow shit.
Good point.
So, yes, it's frustrating. And Patrick actually called back and was trying to play some audio, put the phone up to the radio in his car, some audio from of Michael Pollan, who's on
the media.
On the media,
yeah.
But didn't come through real well.
We should just grab that stuff from On the Media. I meant to do it before we started the show and I forgot.
Yeah, but it's Michael Pollan.
Yeah, I know. That's why but he was actually saying some good stuff.
Really?
Yeah, despite being Michael Pollan.
Yeah, because he's, gung-ho, yay, omnivores.
That's the thing about him. I
don't need to be vegetarian. Just need to eat free-range things because they taste better.
Well, I think that the mental gymnastics that someone will go through, like Michael Pollan wrote an entire book called The Omnivore's Dilemma, where he was kind of looking at some of the problems of our food system. He looks at all these problems and then figures out that there are, in fact, problems with our production of meat and dairy. And then his conclusion is not to stop eating it, but rather to just eat a gentler form of exploitation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what it really comes down to is that we have to remember that all this stuff, ultimately, at the end of the day, is a form of exploitation. Ooh, there's a big spider on the mixer.
Oh. Trying to get into the podcast, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. What's going on?
Oh, no.
It's alive, too. Ooh. It's just there on the mixer. I'm scared now. I'm not afraid of spiders, but...
Just hanging out.
I don't want it to,
I usually scoop them out and put them in some other room.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, all this stuff... I forget what I was talking about. I'm all scattered. I'm
Michael Pollan,
yeah.
omnivore. It's very classist as well.
Why? Because only rich can afford to eat that way?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It's a foodie types.
It is. Yes. Let us eat our tripe and our,
the most exotic, weird,
our sweetbreads and all that crap.
Yep.
Because, it tastes good.
Because it tastes good.
And, it was humanely raised. And even though it had a horrible, horrendous death, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Okay. But anyway, we talked more about this in our interview, actually.
Yeah, we do. So we should just save that for the interview. One of the things I was talking about recently in class, though, was how humans have this really horrible ability that I wish we didn't have, but it makes me wonder about the future of humanity. And humans have this ability to really dehumanize other people, right? In the same way that we treat animals, right? So when we're going to do horrible things to other people, we create a category of subhuman, put people into that category and do horrible things to them, just like we do to animals.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be something in the nature of humanity. I mean, I hate to say that, but it seems to be so common across all different spectrums of humanity to want to dehumanize people who are different than you
mm-hmm.
or who are not like you, and then do horrible things to them. And it happens all the time. It seems sad to me that we've got genocides in the world that proceed on that basis. We've got all kinds of things in the world that seem to be moving in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It troubles me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this is kind of what we're doing right now in the U.S. government with the idea of trying to extend these torture provisions that are in that Bush is trying to get back into law, even though the Supreme Court, a conservative Supreme Court, told him that it was probably not cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not the torture necessarily, but
the trials.
Without, holding people without trials is a problem.
Yeah.
So this dehumanization
mm-hmm.
is this creating of another category and putting animals, people, those we don't want to deal with into that category, and then doing whatever we want to them because they're in that category,
right.
and putting them in that category for completely false reasons
mm-hmm.
is something that seems to me to be common across so many cultures of America too, but across all of humanity, and I find that very troubling.
It is, and it's all interlinked with figures of authority as well. It's like we were just watching this documentary last night, which is why made me think of that.
CBC.
From the CBC. Yeah. Well, the actual documentary is American, I think.
Oh, yeah, but
it was played on the CBC recently,
on the CBC,
and I forget what it's called.
I have it on my laptop, but I'm afraid to touch it.
Yeah, you don't want to.
I'll tell you. Hold on.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Anyway, it goes through the Stanley Milgram experiments and the other ones about the prison experiments. I can't remember that guy's name either. I'm really bad with names.
We're a little scattered today.
Yeah, the Milgram experiment, in case you don't know, was you get one the person comes in, said he meets with a psychologist. The psychologist says, all right, you're going to be the teacher. You ask questions to this guy on the other side of the panel, and if he gets a question wrong, you have to hit a buzzer and shock him.
Right.
And then there's this whole panel of the shocks go from mild to like deathly.
Right.
Deadly. And it starts getting, more and more. It starts getting worse and worse. I'm just like scattered today. I'm sorry.
You want me to take over?
No, it starts getting worse and worse.
What starts getting worse and worse?
The shocks start getting worse and worse. Is this guy, and the guy is an actor, and he's not actually being shocked, but he's pretending like he is, and he's like really in pain.
But there's an authority figure there telling him that he must shock.
Exactly. And the guy's like, I really don't think I should be doing this. And the guy goes, no, keep going. It's all right. You're the teacher. He got it wrong. He needs to be punished. And so they keep doing it. And some ridiculous percentage, like 60+% of people went all the way up to the red zone, which is to death.
Even after the people stopped screaming, because they would shock them, and on the other side of the wall, people would go, ah, they would scream, and they would kind of scream, kind of like that actually. They would scream on the other side of the wall, and the researcher would say to them, "Look, you have to keep going," and the person would say, "No, I don't want to." They would say, "You must. It's your duty. It's part of the experiment." And the person would say, "No, I don't want to." They had to do this 4 times. The person had to say, "No, I don't want to," 4 times before they called the experiment off. Right? So and the idea was to prove that people were going to be obedient to authority. And what this study found is that given the right context, something like 60+% of people, if they feel like they're not responsible for their action, because the researchers told the people that were shocking them, you're not responsible for what we're doing. I'll take all the responsibility. Don't sweat the, if something happens, it's my fault, So by removing the responsibility of the individual and taking it at an institutional level, it allowed people to actually do things that they probably wouldn't normally do without that context. And that's how we end up doing a lot of horrible things in society, because we're in these contexts where they're institutional contexts and we're told to do it. And this is why prison guards treat prisoners like shit. It's why people at Abu Ghraib were tortured. And it's probably in a lot of ways why animals are abused a lot.
Exactly.
Because there's this institutional context for doing it.
Exactly. The industries tell us it's okay. Animals, they're not like us. They're different. They're lower than us. They're put here for us, and therefore we have to kill them.
Well, I think about vivisection, too. I mean, if you think about vivisection, there's this... they always justify vivisection by saying that it's going to help humanity or it's furthering scientific causes. There's all of this kind of mental machinery in place. There's all this context in place to almost remove the researcher's responsibility to animals and to alleviating suffering of animals and to allow them to do this, right? There's a setup that lets them feel like what they're doing is ethical. And that's fucked up, because we have the exact same setup in other places throughout history to exploit people just in the same way. A setup that allowed just for this bare exploitation.
Yep.
It's horrible.
It is.
By the way, the documentary, it's a CBC show called The Big Picture, and the particular documentary is called The Human Behavior Experiments. And what they did was they showed The Big Picture, Avi Lewis, I think is the guy's name. He kind of did a little town hall / public forum thing with the film. So you can probably get your hands on that on the internet some way or another.
Yeah, but it's interesting. A lot of this is like you learn about in Psychology 101 if you've ever taken that class. You talk about the Milgram experience. It talks about the experiments that they did with the prisoners. They took this group Zimbardo's experiment. Yeah, they took 2 just random groups of men, made half of them prisoners, made half of them guards, and put them in a room and see what happens. Yep. And it's pretty fucked up, to say the least. But the documentary is interesting because then they connect it to Abu Ghraib and all the current events and things like that. So.
But when they did this experiment, what they did was they had found that the guards were able to treat the prisoners like they were subhuman. And they would do things specifically to humiliate them, to make life really hard for them. They would strip them naked, put bags over their heads, things like that in order to break them down because the prisoners were resisting. So it kind of mirrors some of the stuff that is going on in Abu Ghraib. But again, the whole point of this isn't to be a sociology or psychology lecture. It's just to say simply that unfortunately we live in a society that is institutionally speciesist and racist and sexist, and all of these different kinds of oppressions together are enabled by the society we live in, sadly. And we have to start changing them. We have to start thinking critically about the society we live in and how we can change those things and how we can modify it so that it isn't so deeply fucked up structurally.
Yes.
Because this stuff comes from the structure of society. It doesn't just come from individuals making these single choices in the absence of a context. Everything takes place within a context. Social and historical context.
And hierarchies and
hierarchies, man. Hierarchies are a real problem.
Exactly. So asking questions and thinking critically, excellent things to be doing.
Always good.
Always a good thing to be doing. And that's how we can challenge these
kinds
of things.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. That's your psychosociology lecture for the day.
Social psychology.
Yeah. I'm inventing new words today.
Are we done now with...
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do some voicemails.
All right, hold on a second here. I'm getting there.
All right.
You want me to play a song?
Yeah, sure.
I'll play one song.
Okay.
That's a close.
267-295-1944. Write the number down on your refrigerator door. Add the 001 country code if you call us from Vienna. That's how you leave a voicemail for good old Bob and Jenna.
Hey, Bob and Jenna, this is Mike from the forums. I just listened to the last show. It was really good, and there was a couple things I want to comment on. You guys read an article where somebody said that veganism should be the baseline morality of our movement, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's a really concise way of putting it. And somebody called in and complained about how vegans are elitist, and I think a lot of that is because the things that vegetarians consume that make them not vegan, and that's just my opinion, but it makes them almost as bad as the meat eaters. And they should feel guilty for not being vegan. I mean, if you're at least an ethical vegetarian, you're kind of dropping the ball because what you eat, in a lot of cases, is actually worse than just eating beef, because I'm sure most people know that beef cows are treated a hell of a lot better than dairy cows. So I don't understand where people feel they have the ethical high ground just eating dairy. Oh, well. Good show, gang. Bye.
Hell yeah, Mike. Completely agree.
Yep.
Eric Marcus makes this point a lot, too. When he speaks in public, he says, look, that there's more suffering in an egg than there is in you know, however much an egg weighs, there's more suffering in that egg than there is in that equivalent amount of meat or in a steak. And in fact, you know, if you want to look at it from the perspective of suffering, and I think you should just stop eating all animal products, period. And I do like that idea that veganism should be the baseline morality of our movement, because how hypocritical is it to have people like, you know, that are involved in animal rights movements and don't even see far enough into the animal rights issues to stop eating animals and to stop eating animal products? That's messed up.
That is messed up.
It's like someone who, you know, decides that they're going to be part of an anti-racist movement, yet they go home and tell really horrible jokes about people of color. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. So I have issue with that. I take issue with that, with people who do that. So Mike is completely right, but also completely right on the whole thing of all the suffering that's in dairy and eggs and all the veal that goes into every bit of milk. So it's a mess. And you should just drop that shit. You know, the cheese whiners are, I have to say, they're starting to get to me a little bit. It's not, I don't mean to pick on anyone, because I know it's hard and everybody's in a different place, and I know that there's all this gushy love out there for people who can't quite make the commitment and all this. I just feel like you need to stop and just do it. Yep. That's the way I feel.
If it's important to you, you just stop and you do it. And it's all about taste, and that's it. That's the only reason you're clinging on to it. Taste.
Well, it's also all about knowing what is right in society, or what is right in your ethical situation, and making the decision to do what is right. You don't deserve any rewards for that. You're doing what you know is right. That's what you should be doing in the world. And so to me, it's just a matter of recognizing that and going with it.
Yep.
That's why ethical veganism should be the basis of our movement. I like that, Mike. All right, we got another? Let's roll it.
Hi, Bob and Jenna. This is Sarah, and I called you last week, and you were nice enough to respond to me. So I'm calling you again to give you an update and tell you that with your help, I've been able to start on the process of veganhood. I don't want to call myself a vegan yet because I still have a lot of not vegan things laying around. And I really love that sound bite that you play, the not vegan one. I found myself saying it in conversation because I've been listening to your podcast so much. And in just about a week and a half, I've been able to listen all the way from the beginning till now, up to date.
That'll give you brain damage.
And I'm just really excited about your podcast, and it's great. And but I do have a question for you, and that is it vegan? I'm going to ask you an is it vegan question. Is it vegan to use feathers that you find like that would be dropped from ducks or geese around a lake? Because I used to like to collect those feathers and use them in crafts and things. And I was thinking that I know that feathers aren't usually vegan, but in the case that you just happen to find them laying around, are they still not vegan? So that is my question, and keep up the good work because you're just awesome. And also I'm a stinky hippie, and so quit knocking the hippies. We love you.
First off, congratulations on making the tentative steps into veganism.
Yes.
We're happy to have helped with that, and thank you so much for the kind words about the show. We, I can't believe people have listened to that much of the show and still are like able to function in the world, because I would think listening to that many hours of us would make anyone brain dead.
This is true.
No, but anyway, congratulations on moving into those tentative steps. That's good.
And it is hard. I mean, a lot of us that are vegan forget that we were once not vegan.
I was maybe a little mean previously. I was maybe a little mean.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're mean.
Well,
it's tough love, I think, what you were doing.
I'm into tough love.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Especially if they're whips. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but anyway, very, very few of us were born vegan. You know, some of us went vegan a lot earlier than others, but for some of us it took a while. And now once you get over on the other side of the fence, it's sometimes easy to forget that, you know, oh my God, there are people out here that don't think like us. Why not? So yeah.
Everyone should.
Of course. But
because I hate people who don't think just like me. I have no patience or tolerance for them.
That's so not true.
That's what it says on iTunes.
Oh, really?
The iTunes review of me.
Oh.
iTunes Music Store, there's a review that says that I don't like people who disagree with me, and that I have no patience for them, and that you don't talk enough on the show.
I talk. I've been talking.
I know. I'm not saying I agree with that review. At least this one is written in fairly comprehensible English. Anyway, so congratulations, Sarah, on moving into those things. I am perhaps a little hard on people. As for the hippie thing, I don't have anything against hippies. I just have stuff against how you smell.
We just like to tease.
I know. I don't really mean to make fun of hippies, actually, in any serious way.
It's just jokes.
Yeah, it's just it's just joking. It's just like crusty punks and crusty hippies and whatever. I'm just gonna. Every time I talk about hippies negatively, we get a lot of backlash.
Yeah.
We get a lot of backlash. There's nothing wrong with hippies.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Peace and love, man.
Indeed. And the feather thing.
Oh, yeah, the real question.
I guess technically if you're just finding them, it's not so bad because you're not like you're ripping them off the birds.
True.
But I don't know. I don't know if I'd use them or not.
I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I feel like I probably wouldn't, but
yeah.
Personally, but I don't think it would be one of those like non-vegan things.
Yeah, I mean, like people are always asking this question. All right, if you go to a thrift store and you find a leather belt or leather shoes or whatever, it's already been bought, and you buy it.
Leather's different.
Yeah,
it's morbid. I mean, number one.
Well, I know. Yeah, something was killed for it. But, I mean, people are like, well, it's secondhand. You're not giving money directly to the leather industry, so some people wonder if it's okay to buy it. I certainly would not.
I wouldn't either.
But it's a little bit different. I mean, if you're just finding things on the ground.
I don't think, personally, I don't think it's a huge issue.
No.
And if you're comfortable doing it, do it. I mean, if it's something you're finding on the ground, there's certainly no harm being caused to any animal from that.
No,
I don't see
they lose feathers.
Yeah, I don't see any problem in that. As long as it's something that isn't being harvested cruelly, I don't think it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it looks like we've got one from Sherbs.
No, not Sherbs. Different Cheryl.
Different Cheryl.
I believe.
Oh. I'm sorry. I just saw Cheryl and it was spelled that way.
I'm pretty sure it's a different. It doesn't sound like Sherbs, so.
Because it's not drunk?
Hi, vegan freaks. My name's Cheryl, and I'm walking around with a bag from fucking Chick-fil-A that I found under my car. Okay, well, my boyfriend's walking around with a bag of Chick-fil-A that we found under my car. And it's a really long walk, parking lot to where we're going, and there are no trash cans. And the thing is, we're kind of worried about people seeing us with this item, which is clearly not vegan, and it's freaking us out. Also, in an unrelated story, we bought a sandwich today, and it said vegan on the menu. There was a little V in parentheses. And then we ate the sandwich, and then we read the ingredients, and the bread had fucking honey in it. What the fuck?
Boo.
Yeah, no thanks. Thanks. Bye.
Honey? Non-vegan. We're getting a lot of not vegans
Yes,
in
we
today. I apologize, Cheryl. I thought you were a different Cheryl. Just looking at the name. Who the fuck would put a Chick-fil-A bag under your car?
People who eat at fast food restaurants tend to litter a lot, and it pisses me off.
Do you really think so?
Because you see it all over the place.
Aren't you generalizing?
I am.
Like
you know
I do
what?
about the hippies.
I am. No, but yeah, it's annoying enough that they eat that shit.
Yeah.
And then they got to litter, too. It's really annoying. And it was very good of you to pick it up and put it in its proper receptacle.
Walking around, even with the possibility of damaging your vegan cred.
Yes.
So it's
But
good of
that's
you
one
to
of-
have done that.
Yes, but that's one of my pet peeves, because if you've ever taken a dog for a walk, you know how much litter annoys you. Because we were walking the dogs the other day, right? And all of a sudden, and Emmy is fast, man.
She's really
She'll
fast.
dart and pick up something in her mouth and continue walking like it's nothing. So she darts, and I see something sticking out of her mouth. And I go, and I'm like, what the hell is this? So I pry open her mouth. She's got half a pizza.
No, it's like a whole piece of pizza.
It was big. I don't
jammed in
know
there.
how she got it so jammed in her mouth. I'm like, oh my God, Emmy, that's disgusting. So I made her spit it out. And,
That was across from the bar, so you have no idea.
yeah,
where that
God.
was from.
Or how old
Or
it
how
was.
old it was, yeah. But
Oh.
Emmy was walking on.
She's
like,
like,
ooh,
ooh,
pizza.
It's like, Emmy's not vegan.
Oh.
So that was gross. But dogs are kind of gross, and they'll eat, anything that's on the ground, and they'll, bag of chips, let's sniff. So, yes, litter is even more annoying when you have dogs.
It is indeed. Back to the honey thing, though, and I'm not going to bitch and moan about honey. I'm just going to bitch and moan about a couple of years ago when I was working with our food services people here. Oh, you're talking about Emmy.
I talk about Emmy. She comes
over
over here. She's like, ooh, you're talking about me. You pet me.
She knows her name. And I was working with the food services people at our university to try to get the cafeteria to get more vegan food. Someone wrote to me, one of the people who was in the kitchen, and said, is honey vegan? Because we received mixes here in the kitchen that were labeled as vegan from our food service provider, and they have honey in them. But many of us think honey is not vegan. And I wrote back and said, honey is not vegan. And they said, then why is it labeled vegan? And I said, you should go ask the food service company. So in defense of the people that fed you the food with honey in it, they may have been told that it was vegan. And some people don't think about honey as an issue, and that's probably why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Not everybody's aware of the fact that vegans do not eat honey. So, I didn't know. It's annoying.
Do you know what you call vegans who don't eat honey? Not vegan. Wait, vegans who
Vegans
eat
who
honey. I'm vegan. Oh, the soundboard's getting
Not
fucked up again.
vegan.
There it goes.
That's what you go. I fucked up. I'm just messed up today. I just want to lean over the mic and just take a little nap right on the mic.
Take a nap. We're not done yet.
Take a little sleepy sleep.
We have a couple more voicemails.
I'm going to sleep.
And then we have emails.
I'm going to sleep.
Don't go sleep.
Okay, what? No. Anyway, moving on. Thanks, Cheryl, and Cheryl's boyfriend. And I hope you get rid of the Chick-fil-A, and I hope it didn't damage your vegan cred.
Hey, Bob and Jenna. Emma or Ben Conservator from the forums just saying something about your pronunciation. It was fine. Of course, you could put on the Australian accent and say it's an echidna. But, you did well enough. And Nicole, you should not be embarrassed by your accent. We all have an accent. You shouldn't be ashamed. That's all. Thanks again for everything. Bob and Jenna, bye.
Thanks, Emma.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I'm glad to hear I was at least close with pronunciation. I'm not even going to attempt to repeat what you just said.
Yeah, beats me.
So
actually, I feel like it's good that we are a global show.
Mm-hmm.
We reach out to vegans everywhere in the world where there's internet,
mm-hmm.
and we have listeners all over the place. And I'm very happy that we've got people with different accents, different places, different backgrounds. We've got a variety of people from all over the world calling in. And I, from this moment on, promise I will never make fun of anyone's accent. Because an American accent is like one of the goofiest ones ever.
That's true. And there is no such thing as a neutral accent. Everyone has an accent.
That's true.
So I think some people tend to think, like, at least in the U.S., that, sort of the Midwestern way of speaking is like this kind of neutral thing, because that's what they make, newscasters who are national have to speak that way. But
ooh, don't you?
Yeah. No, not that way.
Oh, it's like Midwest, like I think upper Midwest.
You like someone from Iowa.
Yeah.
That's considered the quote-unquote neutral accent. But it's not, because it's an accent.
It is indeed. It's just another way of conveying that you reject accents. No, but seriously, we're happy to hear from people. And Emma, thank you for the call. And also, Emma has a site, benconservato.com, net, org, info, TV, biz, XXX. She has a site and where she does sell some art and stuff like that. So, and it's good stuff too. Amazing.
It's very cool stuff.
Yeah. All right, another one. This one is Allie.
Hi, Bob and Jenna. My name's Allie. I'm Rizalka on the forums after about a week ago. I've been listening to your podcast since about January, and if you're hearing a lot of noise, I'm driving. I do a lot of driving for work, I average probably about 20 hours a week on the road. And I got to thank you, because a lot of that boring driving time is filled up with a lot of interesting podcasts. I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you were doing that thing that you guys do, where you were apologizing for, the podcast not coming out on time, or, the feedback of the dogs barking, which I think is just adorable, the dogs and all that. But I just wanted to say that, you're probably expecting me to say, well, screw you, get your podcast out on time. Yeah, I want my podcast, you lazy sons of bitches. But no. I actually wanted to say that I think what you guys do is really great. And before your podcast, I felt very isolated. And now that I've read your book, joined the pod, or I'm a subscriber, which any of you that aren't subscribers really ought to subscribe, because it's rad. And now that I've joined your forums, I really feel like I'm part of an accepting vegan community, which is more than I've ever gotten. And I also wanted to bring up a point that people who do things for some sort of movement, say like Martin Luther King, end up sacrificing some part of their time and their personal interests to do something for a greater good. And you guys aren't profit-mongering, and you're not, you're doing your best, and I want to thank you for that. And even if the podcast comes out a day or two late, this is a big thank you from one of your listeners that says, I don't give a damn, bring me the podcast whenever you can. Anyway, I just wanted to say thanks. You guys do a great job, and don't be so hard on yourselves, because I can't be the only one that is really thankful for everything that you guys do. All right. Thanks a lot, Bob and Jenna. Have a good one.
Thank you, Allie.
That's so sweet. That's awesome. God. That really makes us feel good.
I want to thank God for this award. I feel like, it's very sweet. Thank you. That means a lot to us, actually, because sometimes podcasting can be a thankless job. It can, really.
Yeah, because we're just sitting here, just the two of us, and we're like, okay, we're podcasting, and it's like, all right.
Although we usually don't experience it as a thankless job. Because
no,
we get
I like to podcast.
I do too. We get a lot of really positive feedback from people on the forums and stuff, and people really go out of their way to treat us well. So I can't complain.
It's true. We have a lot of great subscribers.
Our subscribers have helped us immeasurably to improve our setup, which helps us get shows out. And we also have a couple advertisers over on the site who help every month, like Cosmos Vegan Shop, and what the hell's the dog doing? Cosmos Vegan Shop helps out a lot over there. Food Fight, Herbivore. Who else advertises on our site? Am I missing anybody?
I don't know.
Well, anyway, those are our three kind of founding banner advertiser folks. that advertise over on the site, and that's very helpful. And so we do get a lot of support that way, and we really appreciate it. And it means a lot to me to know that you're willing to be patient. 'Cause
Yeah.
I sometimes feel like I could be cranking these things out faster, but
yeah. But well, plus we want to make sure we're doing a good job. Like we don't want to crank out one show and they're like, I don't know, what are we going to talk about today?
Like today?
Well, no, we had stuff to talk about. We just didn't.
Just brain wasn't functioning.
No, brain not connecting to mouth.
I really should have had a cup of coffee before I started, actually.
Oh, that would have been a good idea.
Yeah, wouldn't
now
it?
You mention it.
See, now coffee, I think, would have been great. We could have used the famous Eric Marcus AeroPress.
Yes, that makes a good cup of coffee.
The AeroPress makes an amazing cup of coffee. And we don't get paid to say that, by the way. No, that would have been really good. And now I'm thinking about it. Well, whatever. Anyway, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And for the kind words, it means a lot to us. We appreciate it. We don't have any more to move on to.
Nope, that's all.
Should I play another little theme song?
Okay.
Time one.
Oh, no, it's the wrong one. Yeah, no, that's the opening theme. Let's play the email opening theme.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Let's play this one.
Drop the phone, it'll save you a tenner. Send an email to Bob and Jenna.
And I should also note that we got many voicemails over the past week.
We'll get
that I didn't get them all played today, but we hopefully get them played next time. So
we'll get them in as we can.
Yes. But now we're moving on to emails.
Email. Do we have an order?
No, we don't.
Am I missing? I don't even know where my outline is. So.
Well, there's only 4 of them, so you have 2 and I have 2.
Yay.
I'll start. This is from Chris. He says, hey, I'm finally getting around to listening to the episode in which you talk about George Allen and the macaca comment, which was interesting to me since I live in Virginia. What's also interesting about the Welcome to America comment is that the person Allen was referring to, I think his name is Siddharth, was born and raised in Virginia. And I will add into that George Allen was not born and raised in Virginia. He's from California. Anyway, another interesting side story that I saw in the local press. Siddharth is a student in political science at UVA, and there's some wildly popular political seminar class he wanted to take with a well-known professor. Apparently, hundreds of people apply for the class, and only 25 or something get in. Everyone has to write an essay describing why they should get into the class, and only the best get picked. Siddharth's essay was 3 words. I am macaca. He got into the class. Keep up the great work, Chris.
Thanks. Chris.
That's awesome.
On the George Allen front, it came out today in Salon magazine, salon.com, that he's in fact an old school racist. You know, like he had these 3 friends who came out, well, people who knew him in college, and said basically that, he's the kind of racist. He's a racist. Like, he's just totally racist. So
yeah, likes to use the N-word a lot.
Likes to drop the N-bombs here and there, and apparently referred to one of his friends as the Wizard because he shared a common name with a Ku Klux Klan wizard, has Confederate flags, and a noose, and has spoken in dismissive ways about his own Jewish heritage. So this is a man that is a completely fucked up character.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's read another one here. This one's from Bill Davidson, and Bill says, I've been listening to your podcast for about 1 year now. Man, that's going to hurt. I am not vegetarian or vegan. How can we get you there, Bill? Anyway, I'm not vegetarian or vegan. I subscribe to educate myself about the health benefits associated with a vegan diet. Well, that's cool. I just want to let you know that your podcast has definitely helped me make healthier food choices. The big surprise for me is I'm starting to make many of my choices based on ethics. Not just food choices, but lifestyle choices. I recently went on a first date with a farm girl. She seemed to think it was okay to kill cows based on her opinion that cows are stupid. This girl's a pet owner, she has a dog, and she's in her 30s. I could not believe that she honestly felt this way. There will not be a second date. Hopefully I'll find a vegan girlfriend to help encourage a healthy lifestyle and complement my new way of thinking about animals. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Bill. Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Cool.
Bill, thank you for writing to us, because it's good to hear from folks who aren't quite there yet. But what do we got to do? How can we sell you this, Bill? What can we do to get you into a fresh new veganism today? We got some good financing plans. What can we do, Bill?
We got a no cholesterol diet for you.
We got a no cholesterol diet for you. What can we do so that you leave this show today with veganism? You're going to drive a hard bargain, Bill. I know it. How about if we got your girlfriend, Bill? Would that help? Any vegan
Anybody?
ladies in Edmonton, Alberta, who want to hang out with Bill? Not vegan yet, but could be there. If all I gotta say, Bill, is you can put up with us, and you're not vegan. You might as well be.
Yeah, really.
You might as well be vegan. Anyway, if there are any non-farm girls or farm girls, perhaps who would run veganic farms, who would are maybe want to go on a date to try to convince Bill, here, get in touch with us. We can. We have made many matches through vegan.
We actually have a few.
Yeah, we won't talk about those. We don't want to embarrass anyone.
No, we don't.
So anyway, that's from Bill, and thanks, Bill, for listening. And I just want to, I want to apologize if I ever marginalized the omnivores out there, because it's a vegan show. I mean,
Right?
It's like,
yeah.
it's a
hard.
vegan show.
It's hard not to sometimes.
Yep.
Okay. The next one comes from Daryl.
Is it Daryl or
I don't know.
Daryl?
He's from Toronto, so maybe it's Daryl. For those of you who aren't familiar with Kids in the Hall, I love Daryl.
Daryl's the best.
I have actually seen someone around. It looks like Daryl.
Yeah. Oh, the guy at the co-op.
Yeah.
The guy. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The big glass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daryl.
Okay, sorry, Daryl. Okay.
Daryl.
He says, I love the podcast and got hooked during the summer and have gone back and listened to them all. Great stuff. On the issue of soy on podcast 46, I'm totally on side with what you're saying. It's funny that no one is talking about the hormones in milk and meat the same way that they're talking about the possible issues with soy. Good point. I don't think the evidence is there to say soy is a problem at all, but I agree we need to make sure we use a variety of protein sources. Yes, I agree with that as well. For me, the bigger issue with soy is that a big chunk of North American soy is GMO, and that we need to make sure our soy and soy products are organic. Some of the bigger companies aren't using organic soy. The worst culprit for me is... How do you say that? Is it...
Oh, I fuck if I know.
Is it Ives or Yeves?
YVES. Someone can call and make fun of us for saying it wrong.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I always see it, and they sell it in our stores.
Yeah,
and
we
I
do
just
get
don't...
it. It's a Canadian firm, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Anyway, according to Greenpeace, they have them as a company suspected of having GMO ingredients in their products.
Ooh.
They also use soy ingredients in some of their products. The logo is on at least 2 of their cold cut lines and 4 or 5 other products too. Soleil is a patented soy food developed by DuPont Chemical, which I would hazard to guess is not GMO.
Probably not.
Oh, who knows?
Oh, probably.
It probably
not
is.
Or is?
Is.
I would think
probably
it
is.
Yeah.
Who knows? But we're not saying one way or the other because we're not sure.
DuPont, come on.
Yeah, I know. They're a chemical company.
They're going to have an investment in making sure that it's all GMO because that's the big system stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've sent many a letter to Eves saying I'd buy their products again if they went organic, but lo and behold, they didn't write me back. Eves is owned by Hain Celestial, which is the same company as Celestial Seasonings and quite a number of your favorite products. Yeah,
Horizon.
That's annoying.
Horizon Organic Milk.
And the folks at Heinz have about 16% ownership of the company, which is a neat industry considering a controlling shareholder, so I'm not surprised by their practices.
Right.
So, and he says, no Frankenfoods for me, please.
I agree. No Frankenfoods. In fact, up to now, a lot of my research has been about genetically modified organisms in the food system and the ways in which corporate actors have either forced them on people or used public relations campaigns to make it seem like if we don't adopt GMOs, we're all going to starve. Mm-hmm. So I've actually published some stuff on that, and I feel your pain, man. I feel it.
Yeah, and it's really annoying because a lot of the stuff that you get in mainstream, like cereal or things in the frozen food aisle, is going to have
most of it
GMO soy, and of course they don't have to label it. So who the hell knows?
It's this whole issue called substantial equivalence. Mm-hmm. As long as it's substantially equivalent to the natural, you don't have to bother labeling it.
Right.
That's something that we can thank I think it's the FDA that had that substantial equivalence clause, courtesy of our fine friends from corporate agriculture. Monsanto, DuPont, Cargill,
et cetera, yes.
Yep, fuckers all.
Indeed.
Any other things you want to add there?
No.
Okay. This one's from Bonnie, and Bonnie says, our dogs are going a little bonkers here. I'm not sure why.
They're looking out the window.
No,
it's not a good
don't look out the window. Come here.
Oh, come here.
Relax.
Yes, calm down.
This is after like a 3.5 mile run today.
Mm-hmm.
They still go great. See, we've been running since July, and we're slowly getting into shape, and the dogs are quickly getting into shape. And they're getting into shape faster than we are, so they're in really good shape. I come home, I'm beat, and the dogs are like, come on, you got more? Come on, let's go. Especially Molly.
Yes, he just like runs around this little trot. He's like barely running.
Yeah, he's intense. Anyway, this one's from Bonnie. She says, I'm waiting to receive your book. I ordered it off of Amazon. Anyway, I am a new vegan and I am getting tons of crap from everyone in my life. It is tiresome. Anyway, my fiance and I have been living together for over a year, and I have always been the cook. I love cooking things like filet mignon with red wine butter sauce or chicken. Wasn't she on the? Didn't you just introduce yourself on the forums? Because I remember that red wine butter sauce thing and thinking, ew.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love cooking things like filet mignon with red wine butter sauce or chicken fettuccine alfredo with a thick, cheesy cream sauce.
Ew.
Anyway, I gained tons of weight and went on a diet, which soon led me to veganism. I've been reading like crazy on it and buying cookbooks a little too obsessively. I think I got 5 new cookbooks in the mail last week from Amazon. My fiancé thinks I have snapped. Anyway, he is having a really hard time with all these new vegan recipes, the makeover of our pantry and fridge. I need some advice on how to ease him into this or talk to him about it. I think he's freaked out and he keeps mentioning how he misses steak and the way I used to cook. I would love to be in this together, but I don't know how. I don't want to force him on it either. Help. Thanks. P.S. I get a huge rush off of him enjoying my cooking, so this is really bothering me. I hate when I cook a gorgeous vegan meal and I ask him how he likes it, and he says, it's okay. I want to scream. This is complicated because it sounds like prior to this whole thing, your relationship was at least partially defined through your role as someone who was providing food to him. Mm-hmm. And if that's the sort of relationship that he is used to, my microphone is drifting downward. My neck, as a result, I have no neck. I'm like, okay. Let me move my microphone up properly here so I can... this is amateur radio at its best. I apologize.
Yeah, well, we never said we were professional.
Yes, we are. God damn it. Anyway. Okay. So, it sounds to me like the role that you had, previously in the relationship was that at least part of the relationship was defined on your being a provider for him, and that's if people come to expect each other in these roles. And when you begin to challenge that role, it begins to challenge the way in which you see one another in the relationship. So that's one thing I think you have to realize is that food cuts so much deeper than just simply being sustenance, right? We come to define our relationships through it, and that's why we share special meals with other people and things like that. So I think first by realizing that is the first step to doing that. I think after that, though, you have to speak honestly to him about why you're doing it, what you expect to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And I think you can try to help him understand the situation from your perspective. I think, most people, even if they think it's crap, will respect the idea if it is explained to them in ways that make sense. So I think if you explain it from that perspective, it's a good step in the right direction towards having him understand why you're doing it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, there are gourmet vegan restaurants out there, so it is not hard to have these gorgeous meals. And he's probably just saying it's only okay because he's like a little disappointed and he's not getting what he's used to. And I think as time goes on, he will probably get more used to it. If you want to check out some really, really incredible cookbooks, we have one, the Candle Cafe cookbook.
That's a good one.
I make stuff out of there for my parents all the time. My parents are foodies.
Yeah, they are.
And they at least say that they like it. I don't know if they actually do or not.
My parents like the stuff out of it. We made them.
And
and everything, they were genuine.
Everything out of there is tremendous. There's, if you really didn't get really fancy, there's the Millennium cookbooks, the Artful Vegan.
Yeah, right.
I've only glanced at that cookbook once or twice because the recipes just look amazingly complicated. I think people have said the Voluptuous Vegan is a good one if you want to, like, some very elegant meals. And there are a lot of great cookbooks out there that just do these amazing things with food that you could never think possible and sort of go beyond the, veggie burger and fries kind of things.
Sure.
So, and then there are plenty of cookbooks that do simple and elegant meals as well.
Absolutely.
So I think he'll probably take a while to get used to changing, the composition of your dinner plate.
It'll take a while.
And it's hard for new vegans too, because you're used to, slab of meat, grain, potato, and a vegetable. And you got to conceive of dinner a little bit differently. So.
Absolutely.
But you certainly can cook away. There's a lot of great vegan baking good too, if you like to bake.
You can come here and cook for us if you want, and we will give you, we'll give you a rush by enjoying your cooking.
Oh, yeah. Anybody wants to come cook for us? Great.
Yeah.
Tremendous.
A lot of nights I'm tired when we cook. We do cook all the time because we can't really go out, but sometimes I'm tired and I'm grumpy when I'm cooking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, shit. I don't know. And then I'm happy when I eat. So, but anyway, I think Jenna's point is a good one. Give it some time. try to ease into it, try to ease him into it, and try to explain to him the reason that you're doing it. That often helps a lot, And I think you said it's mostly for health reasons, and that's probably one good way to ease people into it, to explain that, okay, this is something I need to do for my health. I think it's wise. We're not probably giving you enough help, but whatever. We're trying.
But you said you just bought our book, and we go into more detail in the book.
We do go into a lot of detail on this in the book.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Cool. Well, let's play a song.
Okay.
You talk about this.
This song, Plant Eater and Sokara from the forums sent us this song, and it is called Dead Meat by Riot Cop. Okay, we're back. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty, i.e. the dogs were fighting.
They went bonkers.
So we had to stop. And so, yes, we couldn't come right out of the song there like we normally do. Okay.
So sometimes I walk around and I actually feel kind of depressed, because I think all these people who are walking around that I see all the time probably have dead animals in their stomach. And I think it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah,
they're walking around with dead meat festering in their stomach.
And rotting in their colon.
And it's really sickening and quite sad. That bothers me.
Yeah.
So.
I never really thought about it that way. That's gross.
Yeah. It is really gross, isn't it? I'm good at being gross.
Yeah.
But let's get away from being gross and into something a little more interesting. Introduce the interview, will you?
Okay. We have an interview coming up, and I'm about 50-50 on her name, pronouncing it correctly.
Good job.
Colleen Patrick-Goudreau. And anyway, she is from Compassionate Cooks, and she has a DVD, and she does cooking classes outside of San Francisco, Oakland, and she's just a really cool person. Writes for Satya, and we talk about all her projects.
She got something to go with
and
Veg
News
too, right?
Yeah. And we talk about all her projects during the interview. So have a listen. Okay, we're here with Colleen Patrick-Goudreau, founder and director of Compassionate Cooks, and she has a lot of different projects going on and is involved in a lot of different things, so we'll let her tell you about all of that great stuff.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So maybe you could tell us first about Compassionate Cooks. What is it? When did you start it? All that stuff.
Sure. Compassionate Cooks started officially, I suppose, around 6 years ago, when I started teaching cooking classes, and really was just responding to what I saw as a missing link for a lot of people who might read about the conditions under which the animals are raised, and or for health reasons, for whatever reason, they would be convinced to go vegetarian, specifically vegan. I say vegetarian as an umbrella term, but we're talking about vegan. All the classes are vegan, the DVD is vegan. And I just found that people were convinced to go, to make a change, but didn't know where to shop and what to buy and what to cook. And, they, of course, ask all the standard questions about protein. Sometimes they ask about protein, and once in a while they ask about protein. And I just realized that people had a lot of misconceptions about eating vegan, and I just started teaching cooking classes. My background was not in cooking. And I found that it really fills a really important gap. And I really have been following Compassionate Cooks and kind of, figuring out where it's leading me. And
So, yeah, I do cooking classes. I do cancer prevention, cancer survival cooking courses through the Cancer Project, which is affiliated with PCRM, the Citizens Committee for Responsible Medicine, that obviously advocates a plant-based diet. And because I wanted people to have access to this information who couldn't come to Oakland, California, we produced a DVD about a year ago or more now, and so people can at least give that information to friends, to family, all over the place. And it just keeps growing and growing. My background's in writing, so I have a column with Veg News magazine. I'm a contributing writer to Satya magazine, and I have a biweekly newsletter that goes out, and there's essays in there, and I have a blog and a podcast. So communication, any kind of communication to get the message out there is what Compassionate Cooks focuses on.
Excellent. Your article in the Satya, the most recent issue of Satya, which was the September issue, was really solid. I liked your analysis in it. Maybe you could talk about that briefly?
Thank you. Yeah, that article almost killed me. I had been thinking about that for a long, long time. If you don't live in the San Francisco Bay Area, I think we live in kind of a bubble here. You don't really understand the self-righteousness and complacency of people who consider themselves ethical eaters, the people who are proponents of the humane meat movement, if you will.
Oh, we have them everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Sadly.
You know, in the Bay Area, though, there's, because Alice Waters is here, Chez Panisse, which started the whole slow food movement out here in the United States, and from Italy. There's just, and Michael Pollan, of course, is out here. So it's something you hear a lot, and as you said, you hear it everywhere. And it's my hot button issue, and I'd been thinking about this for a long time, and I really needed to jail my thoughts. And so when I talked to Sachi about doing this article, what I was realizing was that it was growing into several different articles, and that was really the first of a few that's to come. And that one really focused on the fact that there's no such thing as a humane animal product, because when people talk about the humane aspect, they generally talk about the raising, the keeping of the animals. They're not referring to the breeding and the transportation and the slaughter, and those are three huge components of keeping, confining, and killing animals for human consumption. So I wrote that article to speak to that issue, to speak to those people, and to really educate the public about the impossibility of such a thing. And the second one that's coming in the October issue of Satya really speaks to Michael Pollan in many ways, but it really speaks to the proponents of the humane meat movement and a lot of the ridiculous arguments. So the title, I don't know if they'll keep it, but the title is Dishing Out the Bull, The Rise of the Excusitarians, because they have the most ridiculous excuses I've ever heard to spend so much energy defending consuming animals when the bottom line is you can't get away from the fact that you're creating harm, you're creating violence, you're creating suffering, and you're killing these animals. They spend so much time trying to find ways to defend it. It's just absurd. So that's the October issue of Satya.
Excellent. It is absurd, too. I've had people say to me, well, when I consume an animal that was humanely raised, I'm honoring the spirit of the animal.
I know.
I hate that. That drives me insane.
It is. It drives me insane, too, and I find that the thing that's lacking so much is having a dialogue. And I really feel so privileged to be able to do these cooking classes because, through food, I get to talk about all these issues. I've had people come up to me and say, do you just have a lecture? Can we just come and hear you talk? We just want to hear you talk about these issues. And I said, well, we can do it, but I don't know who's going to come, because if you feed them chocolate cake, they're going to come. But if I just talk about this stuff and I just throw out there, we're going to have a discussion on animal rights, the odds are I'd have a lot smaller group. So it's a real privilege to be able to do this, because I really have communication all the time with people, and I hear their questions and I hear their concerns, and I understand their challenges and their blocks, and I get to really kind of burst all of these myths and debunk all of the bull. And so when I hear those kinds of things, it does drive me crazy, but I won't let them get away with it. At least we can say something back that is sound and just says, what? I mean, I remember a guy came knocking on my door, and he was from an environmental group. and he was soliciting donations, and he said something, when people, it always comes up that I'm vegan because I'm either wearing a shirt or a button, or I just kind of slide into the conversation, and it's so easy to get people to talk about it because all you have to do is say one thing, and they just start their stuff. So he said something like, my friend has goats, and he honors them, he drives them to slaughter, and he, puts his hand on them and prays for them, and I said, that is not really changing the suffering of the animal. It really has more to do with him being able to sleep at night. That has nothing to do with the animal. The animal doesn't want to die. The animal doesn't want to go there, and he resists. And it was almost the first time that he had someone actually counter that, because if you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, everyone else goes, yeah, that's true. I know, it's really lovely. Because nobody says anything that opposes it. So,
What I like about a lot of the stuff that you're doing is that you're using food as sort of an entry into talking about a lot of these issues, and you do it quite well. And I'm wondering if you could if you have any advice for people who want to do this in their daily lives, use food as kind of an entry point into talking about issues around animal rights and veganism and things like that.
Absolutely. It's so powerful. It's really, really powerful, because I think that's one of the big mysteries for people. I mean, that, all the questions we get about nutrition and food. I mean, the most absurd question vegans get is, what do you eat? I mean, so one of the things I always talk about is how people are already eating vegan food. They're just not calling it vegan. They're eating plants. They're eating vegetables and fruits and nuts and seeds and beans and grains and spices and herbs. I mean, they're eating all the things that are plant-based. They're just not calling them vegan. So if we can really demystify that for people, I think it's really powerful. And feeding them good food, because the bottom line is, if the food is good, they will eat it. And, of course, the food is good. Learning the preparation is just like learning the preparation for any cuisine. There's a learning curve, but you're not always in that learning curve. So I always tell people that it has nothing to do with the flesh of the animal that they're desiring. It has to do with texture, and it has to do with flavor. So if we can get more people to do these kinds of classes, I think it's really, really vital, and it really works. I mean, I see people all the time changing, and like I said, it is an entryway to talk about the animal stuff that they're not going to show up for if I just invited them to talk about it necessarily.
Yeah. Before Bob asked that question, I was just about to say that what I really like about your approach is that it combines a lot of things. Like the food is the entryway, but then you tell people all about the animal industry, and you're not afraid, because people seem to compartmentalize often one or the other. They'll either talk about food or they'll either talk about the animals. And I think you do a really good job at combining them and really opening up the discussions. And you also do tours of sanctuaries, is that correct?
Yeah, I've been going to Farm Sanctuary here in the California shelter for many years, and I know all the animals personally. They're just amazing. And so I take people up and do tours of the farm, which is really nice because we get to kind of linger, whereas if you go to the farm and just go on one of their standard tours, you kind of have to rush through within that hour, but we get to linger and really hang out with the goats or the cattle or what have you, and it's really, really powerful experience. And again, this is one of the situations where I bring up Farm Sanctuary and people say, oh, I'd love to go there, and then the next day I'm calling them and saying, okay, when would you like to go? Let's go. So they have to be really careful what they say around me. But it's really transformative, because I think one of the reasons we can do to animals that we kill for human consumption is because we don't have relationships with them. We don't live with them in our homes. And when we go and have a relationship and have an interaction with a goat or a chicken or a turkey, especially the turkeys, people have the most transformative experiences with the turkeys. They, for the first time, realize that they have the same reactions that their dogs or cats or animals that are familiar to them have. And they, for the first time, realize there's no difference, and they don't want to be part of that anymore. So it's really powerful, and I love being part of that.
That's excellent. Yeah, because we took a tour of the Farm Sanctuary here in New York, and we saw some of the other groups go past, and I was wondering, is it hard to get people to make that connection? I mean, do these people go back and then eat turkey, or is this, I guess my question is, how do you really get that connection to stick?
Well, one of the things I do is I show Meet Your Meat before we go out on the tour. So that really helps make a connection. Farm Sanctuary has their own video they show before their tours, but they know I come in with Meet Your Meat, and that's what I show. So that's one thing, and that's one of the most powerful experiences. If you've witnessed people witnessing that video, it's very powerful and emotional for people. So that's really the first part of it, and then going out and seeing the animals who would have otherwise gone through those situations, or who already had gone through those situations. So that's the first part of it. And honestly, one of my favorite parts about the whole thing is the ride up and the ride back, because all the questions start to happen, all the questions start to come, and we get to have this dialogue, and it's a 2-hour drive, so they can't escape. So you really get to talk about this stuff thoroughly. And then before we get into each area where we meet each animal, we talk about specifically the situations they're in, their particular species, their breed, their species, whatever is in factory farming. And so we get to talk about that. We get to talk about how most of the cattle there will have been veal calves, and they were there because of the dairy industry. There's no such thing as a veal industry if there's no dairy industry. And we get to talk about all those things, and then we meet them. So there's a lot of layers to it. And people are usually pretty emotional and exhausted by the time they leave there. And I hear from many of them who've either gone vegetarian, gone vegan, afterwards, and have really had profound experiences. Now, that's not to say I don't also know people who go back to eating meat afterwards, and that's really frustrating for me. It's not the fault of Farm Sanctuary or the experience they had. Rather, what I find is that a lot of these people move in the circles where there's other non-vegetarians, and like I said before, if we're moving around in those circles and we don't have kind of a reminder, and that's what they've said too, like, oh my gosh, I almost have to watch that again or go back there again because I need that experience. Now, I don't understand that. My experience was, once I found this out, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it was immediate, but especially by the time I went vegan, and the transformation was an awakening, which many people have, where my eyes were opened and I couldn't imagine going back. So we just don't know. All I can say is that everything I do, I try to just plant seeds, and I try not to have an attachment to what the outcome is going to be, because it's not mine. It's not mine, and I would be insane if I tried to control that, and it'd be really inappropriate. So I try to plant seeds, and I do know that all those seeds really make a difference, and it might be one last thing they need, it might be one more push, it might be one thing they see on the news, it might be one animal they pass on the street, who knows, but at least each one of them creates the potential for transformation.
I think it's really important, the point you just raised about planting seeds. I mean, because I think a lot of us get frustrated when we talk to people about these things, or we're asked about these things, and we notice that people aren't really changing. But I think a lot of people, it just takes time. It has to kind of percolate through all the layers of growing up in this culture in which we are always abusing animals one way or another.
And the blocking mechanisms are so strong. Definitely. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about how you became vegan. I
first stopped eating land animals when I read Diet for a New America when I was 19, which was many years ago now. And yeah, it was the first time I had ever seen any of those photos or read about factory farming. I had no idea. And it's amazing that we can go through our lives. And 19 isn't even that old, but, for me, thinking about, 19 years, I didn't know any of this stuff. And that really started me on a path that really changed my life. I mean, I had done animal activism before then, and I was really focusing a lot on anti-vivisection and puppy mills, but I hadn't worked on factory farming. So it really changed everything for me, and that started me on a path of wanting to find out everything I could possibly find out. And in the meantime, I was still eating eggs and chickens' eggs and cow's milk, and I don't know, I had a disconnect. That's what I think is really important for all of us activists to remember, is that we have to remember our own stories, because I certainly wasn't perfect, and I certainly it didn't just happen for me. So a few years later, reading more books, and the book that really changed my life was Slaughterhouse by Gail Eisnitz. She's the investigative journalist who went in and investigated their slaughterhouses around the country and interviewed the slaughterhouse workers and asked the same questions to all of the workers and had the same answers in all of the slaughterhouses. And it was the most painful experience reading this book. It was incredibly painful, but it was the thing I needed to really understand that no matter where they come from, they could be on the happiest farm, which of course is a myth as well, but the ultimate end is horrific, the transportation of the slaughter. And that was really what changed. I mean, that was about 7 years ago. when I read that.
Excellent. Yeah, and you make a point in your most recent Satya article that the problem isn't that the way we raise animals, it's that we eat meat. And I think that talking about the slaughterhouses and about all of that, learning about it really hits home when you bring that point up.
What people don't understand, especially when people say things like, well, I don't really care, I don't think they really mean this when they say I don't really care about the animals, I care about humans, is that if you really did, then you still can support this industry. It is the most violent industry. The people make a living, barely, they don't make a living, killing. And if you think that doesn't affect people when they go home at night, then you're kidding yourself, because they're beating their wives, they're beating their kids, they're beating their own animals at home, and that's the environment they're in every day. So the things that were so horrific about reading Slaughterhouse, was not just the slaughter itself, was not just, hoisting them up and slitting their throats and bleeding. It was the torture that the workers inflict upon the animals because they can. If you give any kind of unlimited power, look at Abu Ghraib, any kind of unlimited, unchecked power to one group over another group, that is what happens. And they're in such stressful circumstances, and they have to meet these quotas that, we all get frustrated and we kick drawers. We know what that's like when we're just in so much stress and so much angst, and we'll just, and that's what they do day in and day out to the animals. Things I can't even name. Cutting off snouts and rubbing salt into their wounds, and the horrific investigations we've seen PETA and other groups do of chicken processing plants and ripping their beaks. Just horrific stuff. It's just above and beyond the actual slaughter.
Mm-hmm. It really is horrible.
What's that?
It's completely horrible.
Yeah.
I read something a number of years ago by a French anarchist who kind of made the argument that as long as we're slaughtering animals, that's also influencing the way in which we go about as a society treating other people. So as long as we can always marginalize or create that kind of other, we're always going to be able to very easily create that other with human beings. And he thought this, Elisée Reclus was his name, he thought that the only way we're ever going to create a society that was nonviolent was to stop animal slaughter. And certainly the kinds of things you're talking about hit right to that point.
Exactly, and you don't have to work in the slaughterhouse to be part of that violence. There are people who also believe just that, you said before about, I've read things where people talk about the youth of the lamb, the youthfulness of the lamb that was killed is fused in their body. And it's ridiculous stuff. But by the same token, they would understand that the stress and the pain and the fear of that animal would be infused in the meat. Now, this is not what but I'm just saying, if you believe that, then you're consuming all of it. You're consuming that violence. You're consuming that fear. And I do believe that it's in the body of that dead animal, and that's just one component of it, just being desensitized to the fact that we're killing so many animals a year, seeing slabs of flesh and not really seeing that as an animal. All of that stuff contributes to desensitizing ourselves to violence towards anybody. It's all connected. That's what I love about Satya magazine so much, is that it makes the connections between all those social justice groups. I've been involved with many different social justice groups, and that mentality it's so frustrating because they tend to stop at non-human animals, and they just don't get it, that if there wasn't the violence towards the non-human animals, there would be so much less violence towards humans. It's all the same.
That's a great point. Excellent. Yeah, and I was so happy to see that next issue of Satya is going to continue along the whole ethical eating dilemma, so I'm looking forward to that issue. Definitely. Tell us a little bit about your podcast as well.
The podcast grew out of those questions that I get in the classes via email, and all the bold myths, the questions people have. So I just started responding. I just would rather do that than write them all out, because I think there's intricacies that you just really can't cover, or people aren't going to read in a long answer. And I never have simple answers for anything people know. If they ask me a question, it's not going to be a yes or no answer, because these are complicated issues in some ways. And I really want to get to the heart of it. What I really try to do with the podcast and with all of the responses I have to people is to get underneath so that they can figure it out for themselves. That's why I call it food for thought. I'm not here to tell anybody what to think or to believe what I believe, but if you're asking me, then you're trusting that I might have some insight. And so my goal is, again, to just raise awareness so that you can walk away at least processing it and thinking about it on your own. So, for instance, when people say things like, where am I going to get calcium on a plant-based diet, I could just say, well, you can get calcium from kale, you can get it from green leafy vegetables, but what I want people to understand is that you can do that because the reason cow's milk has calcium is because those are the vegetables they're eating. They get calcium from plants. Calcium is a mineral. Calcium is in the ground. So what we're doing is actually going through an animal, having her eat the calcium so that we can have her pregnant, have her gestate for 9 months, take her baby, take her milk, and then kill her. Or we could just eat the kale. It's just absurd that we go through all of this to get the calcium that they're getting from the source in the first place. Of course, they're not really eating kale and they're not really eating grass. They're eating calcium supplements because they're confined on dry lots and they aren't getting the grass, so they supplement their feed with calcium. So it's just absurd that we go through all of this, use up so many resources and kill these animals for something we can get directly from the source itself. So that's the kind of thing I like to do in the podcast, is let's get underneath this and help people really think about it on their own.
That's a great idea. Where can people find your podcast at?
Well, everything's at the website, Compassionate Cooks, with an S, it's plural, CompassionateCooks.com, and they can listen to the podcast, they can read essays from the newsletter, they can read articles, letters to the editor, interviews, they can buy the DVD. I really encourage people to check out the DVD. Again, it was made as an extension from the cooking classes to give access to people, so vegetarians who've ever heard anything from their family members that said, I don't know what to make you, what should I make, what can you eat, what about the holidays? We cover all of this. We do lots of really delicious dishes. We have a whole frequently asked questions section. We focus on the holidays. We have a beautiful stuffed squash. So I really encourage people to check out the DVD. You can watch a clip of it. It's really entertaining. Alka Channa, who's with PETA, was my co-host. She and I used to teach cooking classes together before she moved to Virginia to work for PETA. So it's really fun, entertaining, and I think informative DVD.
Excellent. And as we close out, there are a surprising number of people who listen to our show who are not vegan. And we always ask all of our guests on the show, what would you tell these people to get them to go vegan?
I would tell them to just open their minds, open their hearts, and look at the truth. I think the bottom line for people when they're not making choices such as, if you're already thinking about it, it's not. What I want to say is that at least make a choice that reflects your own values, because I don't think people are really living the values they say they have. They say they're compassionate. They say they care about nonviolence. They say they care about animals. And if you really want to live according to your own values, then perhaps you might want to consider making the plunge.
Excellent.
Thank you. And I'd encourage everybody to go check out your website because it's perfect. It reaches such a wide range of audience. You've got things for people who are already vegan, things for people who are, I think, on the verge of going vegan, and things for non-vegans who are just very curious and who need to learn more about all the great things we eat. So I encourage you all to check out their website. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you both for what you do.
All right. Thanks once again to Colleen for talking with us.
That's right. It was interesting to hear her perspective on things.
Definitely. Yeah, it was a very cool interview. I really enjoyed it.
It was. And we're always happy to talk to folks. If you think you know somebody that we should be interviewing, let us know.
Yeah.
Make sure we haven't interviewed them already, though.
Yes, that's true.
So we have done a lot of great interviews in the past.
I know. Talked to a lot of cool people.
We have indeed.
And of course, now we have our setup fixed.
We do.
So we can talk to people.
I fixed our digital hybrid, so it works quite well. And we can do telephone calls anywhere in the world. We're willing to talk to people if they speak English or maybe Spanish. Maybe. But then we'd have to translate. That'd be
yeah.
Well, anyway,
okay.
Get in touch with us if you have ideas about who we should be interviewing. We'd like to hear about that stuff. Subscribers, thank you so much. We really appreciate your support. There is a new subscriber cast out just a couple days ago, so go check up on that. If you want to subscribe, you can do it at podcast.veganfreak.com. You can always send us email, podcast@veganfreak.com.
There's the voicemail line, 267-295-1944.
Yep.
Better have that sucker on your refrigerator door.
Please do. I think that's about all. Oh, you can also send us audio if you want.
Oh, you forgot to play the one from the Philippines.
Oh,
damn it! I'm sorry.
Fuck. That's my fault.
We'll play that next week
Shit.
or next time.
Sorry,
we're going away.
Child.
Yeah.
Therese. Yeah. Anyway, we'll be back again. Not this coming week because we're going out of town, but the weekend after that we'll be back again.
Yes.
For another exciting episode of Vegan Freak Radio, number 49.
All right.
Coming at you.
Until next time.
See you later.
Bye.
What the fuck is wrong with our soundboard? It's annoying. Our soundboard should be working and it's not. Listen, it skips. There it goes. I apologize for cursing about the soundboard, but it makes me angry. I'm going to center my chakras now.